Well, welcome to this video. So I've done something stupid, and can you guess what it is? Well, you probably know what it is because of course it's in the video title and you clicked on the thing and there's the picture next to it. So yes, I bought a Maserati. How cool is that? So these cars are normally like, well, I don't know, 13 to 17,000 pounds, maybe 20,000 pounds for this type of car. They usually cost a lot to run, and quite frankly, I can't afford one. So how did I end up with this one, and why? I guess that's the story of this video. So normally these are 14,000 pound cars, right? They cost a lot of money normally to run. If you take them to dealers, of course, then they cost an astonishingly large amount. I'm talking thousands of pounds a year to run. Obviously, I don't have the money. Also, if you look at the rest of my videos, you'll see that I've got plenty of projects that are 3/4, 90% done, 90% left to go. So why did I rush out and do something as incredibly cool and stupid as buying one of these when I can't afford it really? Well, the answer to that is it was a very good price. It was a very good price for a reason, but it was the sort of price where at 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday night, you click on eBay and something comes up and you start thinking, no, that's not right. So you message, you get a sensible message back, i.e. not written in pidgin English or something like that. And you do a little bit of check, you check on Google, you know, to make sure that the car actually, you know, I could actually see it on Google Maps. You know, you check up on other adverts that have been posted by the same person, feedback. But of course, people can hack people's accounts. So you do a HPI check at midnight on Saturday night. And then finally you get to sleep at around about 1 o'clock in the morning after having done insurance quotes and all the other sort of stuff and all the background stuff. And then at 5 o'clock in the morning, you get up in the morning and you drive halfway across the country for a few hours to make sure you're the first person there. And that's what I did. And I still can't believe I own this car. I mean, I have wanted one of these for years, but I've never had the ability to buy one because I've never been able to chump together enough money for one, bearing in mind the maintenance costs as well. So how come I got this and how much did I pay? Well, you have to wait a bit later on in the video to find out how much I paid, sorry. But why did I get this one at the price I did? And the answer is there's a fair few things wrong with it. One of the primary things, of course, is that it is a category S. That's a structural damage and it's been written off by the insurance company. Why? Because 2 weeks before I bought it, I had a crash where someone smashed into the back of it. So that's the primary reason why I got it cheaper, and it will always be a Cat S. There's nothing I can do about it. Its value will always be less than the 14,000 pounds that you'd typically pay for one of these. It also came with just a few days MOT. Big problem with an MOT, that's like an inspection test in the UK, is they will go through everything. They will check the rotors, the front brake discs, back brake discs, and bearing in mind the discs on this thing, yeah, talking about 1,200 quid discs and pads. I can probably get them for about 600-700 by really being careful on eBay. Bearing in mind that the last MOT, the rear suspension was an advisory, and that's about £1,000–1,200 pounds per side to fix. Me doing it myself without any labour charges, of course. It also had the emergency parking brake come up as a warning constantly with the infamous words "go to dealer," which is essentially Maserati's way of saying hand over your wallet, take another mortgage and cry. It also obviously has the Cat S damage on the back. So there's a fair few things wrong with it. So this could turn out to actually be a very expensive, cheap car. Because Maseratis, when you buy them cheap, they typically turn out to be very expensive. Likewise, when you buy them at normal price, they typically turn out to be very expensive. So, to walk you through the problems I've got. So first off, if I walk up and show you the terrible amount of damage that was done to the back of this car and why it's now a Category S structural write-off. Terrible, isn't it? Of course, at this point, you might be looking at this and thinking, what on earth is he talking about? Well, the observant of you might notice that the two parking sensors are missing. They're actually dropped down inside that, what's that thing called? Fender, bumper. The second thing is, which you can't quite see through the dirt, but there's a slight marking here. I mean, you have to get 30 centimeters from it, and a lot of that will polish out. Next thing is when you look, the gap goes smaller here and out. And then when you open the boot, the moment it won't shut with the seal in place. And obviously, you can see something's not quite right along here, but it's not much, is it? Then when you go here, you can see that this got pushed out slightly along here. Now, my belief is, because there's no tears in the metal, that I think that the rear bumper bar here costs about 450 quid that goes underneath here, the structural member. And I reckon this is just a normal panel, and I can push it out. You can obviously see here that you're thinking, why on earth would this be Cat S? The answer is they never came to see the car. And the answer also is this plastic tray here alone, which has got a small crack in there, which I don't care about. But obviously, if you were having repaired properly, you would care about. That's about 750 quid. This panel is, I don't know how much, the rear bar, then the paint. And you can quickly see that the insurance companies look at it and going, we can either just write it off and write a check, or we have to come out, we have to inspect it, we have to go through all the hassle and trouble that is involved. Also, the parking brake fault might have something to do with being smacked in the back here. This is your emergency parking brake actuator just here. Might have been upset. This is 1,500 quid plus the VAT. So that's 1,800 pounds unfitted, not fitted. Obviously, it's fairly easy to fit, fairly easy. But you can see that you're starting to chump up a lot of money if you start tying that to the accident. And also, I've got to figure out just what's wrong with that little thing down there, which means I'm nervous at the moment. So that's the Cat S damage, the extent of it, the full extent. The boot lid closes okay, apart from the fact that you need the seal in place, but you can see that obviously the striking plate's not quite right and it needs to be adjusted down again. But on first, second, third glance, doesn't seem to have anything wrong with it, does there? So the tyres, the rear tyres are okay, they're not bad, about half worn. The front tyres are almost new, so that's a good thing, because a set of tyres for this is about 1,100 quid, unless you go on eBay and manage to find a couple cheap. Here though is a big problem, because the MOT, I've got to get an MOT to drive it on the road after today, and the last MOT had advisories on the ball joints. On a Maserati, you can't just replace the ball joint. So something that would cost you 20 quid normally, you have to change the top arm, the hub carrier and the bottom arm all in one hit, and it comes as a kit. You can get stuff off eBay, but it's probably worn, and by taking it apart, they've probably wrecked it. £1,000 aside for the parts, so it's 780, I think it is, plus the VAT and a few other bits and pieces. So I'm a little bit worried that that's the problem. Having said that, on the way home just now, I was driving along the M25 and it was interesting. Now, obviously, that bit of video that I just recorded was an actual video of me driving. The reason is because my phone had gone out of charge, because another problem with this car is the USB charging socket doesn't work. And I thought my phone was just going to go out of charge. But yeah, it was interesting on that journey. That's not terribly good, is it? Otherwise, though, these cars have a lot of general normal faults on them. First, they have a really cool door handle with two latches. Look, that one's like a hard latch if the battery's gone. That one's electronic release. So normally the interiors of these look terrible. They all have sticky buttons, but the last owners cleaned all the buttons on this one, so they're not too sticky. That means I can keep on top of them by cleaning them with lemon juice every so often. They usually have worn seat bolster. Oh, and that's another point with this car. Don't know if you can see it up there. I'm cold, so my hand's shaking, but 125,000 miles, which is, I've seen ones of these advertised with 150, 160,000 miles, but obviously it's more mileage than you'd normally get. 14,000 pound car usually gets you a car with 80,000 miles on it. But despite the mileage, seat bolster, very good condition. This is cool. Look. Just because, you know, you're too lazy to pull the seat forward. Anyhow, the interior, that's bits for the plane, is all good too. But here's the big thing. Normally, headlining drooping down. Only way to fix a headlining is to put, you know, you can either take the entire headlining out, which takes a day, 2 days, scrape it all off, re-glue it, stick it back, and risk that you've upset some of the electronics in here, which, you know, can happen, and then something doesn't work, and then it's a nightmare. The other way to do it is use these little screw things that you screw into the headlining to hold it up. But then you look like you've got a Victorian chair, which doesn't look too bad. But, you know, my thought was, if the headlining was drooping, is you could just run a knife across the middle, put it back, scrape out the bad stuff, glue it, and then put some kind of strip over the bit that you've cut. And that could look quite cool, because you could have like an aluminium strip that would make it look a little bit more interesting. But this is amazing, because this headlining is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's Alcantara, that's the stuff, and it's not drooping in the slightest. So that's actually really unusual. The seats all work as well, which is a good thing, because again, hundreds of pounds. So generally her condition is pretty good. She's in pretty good condition. But as I said, the key thing is getting through the MOT. So if my parking brake is damaged, then you're talking about 1,800 quid for the parts. And if I need to do the cables as well, that's about another 500 quid on top. And then of course, parking brake shoes, springs, stuff like that. You're talking just in parts, like 2,000, 2,300 or something, just for the parking brake. If the ball joints are gone, that's around about £1,000 a side, plus some other bits, so about £2,500. Can you start seeing where this is going? Replacing the rear bumper bar, 400 quid. Fortunately, all the brake discs on this car are good. However, she has another problem. Quite how much of a problem this is, I don't honestly know. I do kind of know, because I've been researching it. Mind you, I researched all that at about 12:30 in the morning before going to sleep to race and go and pick her up. So this astonishingly cool engine bay, which needs a bit of a clean. In there is sat the Ferrari built engine. So I believe they're built by Ferrari. They are basically Ferrari engines, but with cross plane cranks, not flat plane. And they share most of the components, right? Problem with this one is the variators. Now this car, the last owner actually took all this off, had them painted red instead of the standard blue on the 4.2 litre, and he had the cap modification done, but he didn't change the variators. To change the variators means taking most of this apart out here, stripping off the front of the engine, and then messing around with the timing. I can do it. I have the manual. It's complicated. It involves dial gauges, it involves all kinds of things, but I can do it. Normally though, to change the variators on this car and get the cam caps done, you're talking £3,000–4,000 at an independent specialist. Because the cam caps are done, the variators are about 800, so with the VAT like 750, and then gaskets and stuff like that, I can probably do it for about 900 quid. Then there's the other bits that you might do at the same time, so you're talking £1,000 again in parts. So that is something I will almost certainly have to do. Having said that, I haven't heard a rattle yet at start, and I cold started her when I went to see her. I've started her a couple of times so far on this journey back. Maybe it's sufficiently okay for now that I won't have to do it for a year or so, because I think it's one of those things, if it's doing it every time, it's time to do it. Yeah, so there you have it basically. So how much did I pay for this thing? Well, first, I guess the best thing to do is put a list up of my potential risks. I'm actually a project manager, so I don't love spreadsheets, and I don't like being a project manager. It's not really my thing, even though I spent most of my living adult life doing it. I try to ignore some of the risks quite often in my own personal life, so I don't run my personal life like I would run a project, just in case my boss ever sees one of these videos, right? I'll stick up a spreadsheet now. Hopefully I've done that, and you can see all my potential risks. So we're talking £1,000 each side on the suspension, roughly, a bit more than that. It does need a front shock bush, but that's like 100 quid. It does need engine mounts, I think, because the engine's shaking. Electric parking brake, that could be another sort of £2,000 expense, depending on what needs changing. The variators is a given. At some point in the next year, £1,000. Right? Discs are okay, wheels are okay. There's other things. The USB, oh, and there's multiple electrical faults appearing on the dashboard. All of them are MOT failures. You can't have any lights on the dashboard. This isn't the sort of car where you can nick the bulb out, or not that I would ever do anything like that, but if any check light or anything like that showing on the dashboard, MOT failure, and then the car's sat on my drive and I can't drive it. So that's all of that. That's the risk I'm looking at on this car, and I'm sure I forgot a couple of the bits. And then there's all the risks I don't know about, like these lights are like hundreds of pounds each, and they have auto leveling, and So how much did I pay? That's the big question. And I paid £4,500. Now this sounds like a fantastic bargain, but just bear in mind that best case and worst case scenario below. Best case is I've got to put £2,500 in to get a really proper up and running, which makes her a £7,000 car, which is fantastic, and I can keep her. But the worst case is that she costs about 13,000 or so. Now, bearing in mind she's a Cat S, she's never going to be worth any more than around about 12,000, so I'll be out of pocket. And I have to sell her as soon as she's done, because otherwise I have to take a loan to keep her, and I can't really do that in my financial situation. So, depending on which of those risks come true, I might be in a really good place. If all those risks are a problem, I might very well end up in the situation where I can't afford to keep this car. Because basically, if this was £12,000, I can't afford it. I don't have that much money. I have to take a loan to do the work, and then I have to sell the car, and it's Cat S, so that'll be difficult. I'm not the sort of person who's going to break apart a car like this and sell the parts, even though I could make quite a large amount of money doing that. So my objective over the next few videos and the next few weeks of my life is to try and make this, get it to the point where I can keep it, and I can really keep it because I've mitigated all those risks in my little spreadsheet there, and it hasn't cost me that £12,000 I have to sell it. What you have to remember is I'm not Mad Armstrong. I'm not one of these other YouTubers. I've got 350 subscribers, 368 subscribers. To make money, you need 1,000 subscribers. I'm never going to get to 1,000 subscribers. That's not the point of my videos. I don't care. I'd love to make money. I'd love to have Mad Armstrong's position, or that's where I am. Wish me luck. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. My objective is hopefully to have some DIY videos on this, and hopefully present a journey where I go from my present state, which is one of a lot of fear, a lot of trepidation and joy, to hopefully a point sometime in the future where I've done this and I've produced some videos that might be helpful to someone else who wants to do the same thing. They might be videos showing you how not to do it so that the next person knows how not to do it and therefore knows how to do it, but hopefully I'll make that journey, and hopefully it will be a good one.